The sky above Earth had always been a mystery. For centuries, people looked up at the stars and wondered if they were truly alone. Some believed they were not. Others thought it was just fantasy. But when the signal came, clear and powerful, from beyond the solar system, no one could deny it anymore. Humanity was not alone. It started with a message, a repeating pulse sent through deep space on a frequency that no known natural event could produce. Scientists picked it up first, then governments, then the world. After weeks of careful decoding, what they found was simple. We are the Virex Concord. We come in peace. Peace. That word gave hope to billions. For the first time in history, countries stopped fighting each other and worked together. The United Nations formed a new committee called the Interstellar Contact Council. Every major nation sent their best minds, scientists, diplomats, linguists, and military advisors. They wanted to make sure humanity made the right impression. Among them was Ethan Blake Sown, a defense analyst from Washington, D.C. He wasn't famous or high-ranking, just a quiet man who studied how wars began and how they might be avoided. He didn't expect to play a big role, but he knew something most didn't. He had read reports about strange energy readings near Mars years before. He believed this. Contact was not as random as others thought. At the same time, in Colorado Springs, a young woman named Maggie Doyle watched the news with wide eyes. She was a fighter pilot trainee in the Air Force. She loved flying more than anything. But now she dreamed of something bigger, flying among the stars. She saw the message as a sign. Maybe soon, pilots like her wouldn't just fly jets. Maybe they'd fly spacecraft. Back in Geneva, where the Interstellar Contact Council met, things moved fast. Humanity responded to the Virex message with a reply. They sent greetings, images of Earth, music, even poetry. They wanted to show they were peaceful too. Then came the next signal. We will arrive in 36 days. No one slept much after that. The world prepared for the arrival. Cities held festivals. Schools taught children about space. Governments built landing zones and meeting halls. Everyone hoped for a historic moment. And then, they came. The Virex ships arrived silently, like shadows in the sky. Their vessels were smooth and black, shaped like blades slicing through the clouds. They landed in New Delhi, Beijing, Moscow, and New York. One ship hovered over Geneva, where the council waited. They stepped out slowly. Tall beings, covered in armor that shimmered like water. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed faintly. They did not speak with mouths. They spoke through machines that translated their thoughts into human voices. Their leader introduced herself as Commander Zell 7. The first meeting lasted hours. The Virex explained who they were, a coalition of advanced species that governed most of the galaxy. They said they had observed Earth for some time, not as enemies but as watchers. They called humans primitive, not in anger, not in hate, just as fact. We have seen your wars, Commander Zell 7 said. Your divisions, your violence. You are far behind. There was silence in the room. Ethan sat quietly, listening. He understood what was happening. This was not a meeting of equals. It was a test, and humanity had failed. The Virex made their decision. Humanity would not be allowed to join the galactic community, not yet. Instead, they issued a decree. Earth must remain neutral. Do not interfere with interstellar affairs. Do not build weapons of war. Do not expand beyond your system. Obey, and you may survive. Then they left. Just like that, the world watched them go. Billions felt the same thing. Shame. Some leaders tried to argue. Others begged. But the Virex did not return. In the days that followed, the mood on Earth shifted. What had once been joy turned to confusion, then frustration, then anger. People asked questions. Why were we treated like children? Why can't we defend ourselves? But governments stayed silent. They feared provoking the Virex again. Behind closed doors, however, not everyone agreed. In Washington, Ethan was called into a private meeting. He was not alone. There were others, military officers, scientists, intelligence agents. They talked, in low voices, away from the public eye. What if they're wrong? Someone asked. About what? About us being weak. Ethan leaned forward. I've read their files. I've studied their tech. They think we can't fight because we haven't fought anyone like them. But maybe that's why we'll surprise them. No one said anything for a long time. Then one general whispered, we should prepare. Preparation meant many things. Some countries began working on secret projects. They studied the alien ships that had landed. They took samples of the materials used. They tried to understand the weapon systems. In Colorado, Maggie was transferred to a new program. No one told her what it was. All she knew was that she was one of only a few pilots selected. They want people who can think fast, her commander said. People who don't follow orders blindly. She liked that. Meanwhile, Ethan was pulled deeper into the Defense Department. He was given access to top-secret files. One file stood out. Data recovered from an old satellite that had passed near Mars years ago. It showed a small object moving faster than light. It had been dismissed at the time. Now, it seemed important. Ethan stared at the screen. Someone had been watching Earth long before the Virex arrived, and maybe not all aliens were like the Virex. As the weeks passed, the world returned to normal, at least on the surface. But beneath that calm, something else was rising: doubt, anger, and the quiet beginnings of resistance. The world had gone quiet after the Virex left. Not because there was peace, but because people didn't know what to say. Governments gave speeches about unity and patience. News channels replayed footage of the alien ships landing and leaving. Children drew pictures of the strange beings in black armor. But deep down, many felt the same thing. Humans were not respected. Ethan Blake felt it every time he walked into a meeting. He had been pulled deeper into defense planning. At first, it was just reports and data. Then came the secrets. He was shown files no one outside the military should have seen. One file showed video taken by a satellite near Mars. It was blurry, but clear enough to see something moving fast. Too fast for any human-made craft. The object disappeared within seconds. Another file showed damage on the surface of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Something had landed there, or crashed. No one knew who or what was responsible. Then came the most disturbing file. It was audio. A voice, not human, speaking in broken English. We are not them. That was all it said. Ethan stared at the screen. Someone had found this message months ago, hidden inside old radio signals bouncing through space. No one believed it. Was real. Now, with everything that had happened, it seemed important. He wasn't the only one noticing strange things. In Colorado Springs, Maggie Doyle was training harder than ever. She had been moved to a secret base high in the mountains. There were no signs outside, no flags, just a gate, guards, and a lot of questions she couldn't ask. She was told she was part of a new program called Project Skyguard. Her job was to test experimental aircraft designed for spaceflight. At first, she thought it was a joke. They want me to fly. Up there? She asked her commander. Yes, he said. And you're not the only one. There were others, pilots from different countries handpicked. Some were former astronauts, others were top gunfighters. All had one thing in common. They were chosen because they could think for themselves. Maggie liked that. But she also noticed things weren't normal. There were rumors, strange lights in the sky, equipment failures. Security alerts canceled last minute. One day, a whole hangar was locked down after someone found a device no one recognized. It looked like a piece of metal wrapped in wires, glowing faintly. No one said what it was. Back in Washington, Ethan met with a small group of scientists and military officers. They worked in a building that didn't exist on maps. Inside, They studied pieces of Virex tech recovered from their landing zones. Some of it was damaged. Some of it was just trash. But even that gave clues. Luke Morgan was one of the lead engineers. He was quiet, with messy hair and tired eyes. He spent his days taking apart alien machines and trying to understand how they worked. "They're not perfect," Luke said one day, holding up a small black box. "They use energy sources we don't fully understand. But they're not gods." Ethan leaned closer. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying if we work hard enough, we can build our own weapons. Maybe not as good as theirs yet, but good enough." Ethan nodded slowly. That was the point of the whole project, not to copy the Virex, but to learn from them. Meanwhile, across the world, other governments were doing the same. China had started a secret program in Tibet. Russia was testing new satellites with unknown payloads. India was working on a shield system meant to protect cities from orbital attacks. No one talked about it publicly. But behind closed doors, everyone was preparing. Then came the first sign that something was wrong. Mining colony on Europa went silent. It wasn't unusual for comms to drop now and then. Space was vast and signals got lost. But this time something felt off. When a rescue team arrived, they found the base destroyed, not burned, not exploded, just gone. The walls were melted, the equipment was twisted, the bodies were missing. There was no sign of struggle, no blood, no fire, just silence. The United Nations issued a statement saying it was an accident, but Ethan knew better. So did Luke. They were shown the report. "It looks like a weapon," Luke said. "A weapon that vaporizes people?" Ethan asked. "Or takes them?" No one had answers. Then came more strange events. A research station orbiting Saturn picked up a signal. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from the Virex either. It was short. Just 3 words. "We are coming." Maggie heard about it through the grapevine. Pilots talked. Even in secret bases, word spread. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew one thing. Something was happening. She kept flying. She kept training. Every mission took her higher, closer to space. She learned how to handle zero gravity, how to fight in tight turns with no air, how to survive when systems failed. She was getting ready, even if she didn't know what for. Back in Geneva, Lena Cruz tried to hold talks with the Virex again. She was a diplomat, calm and smart. She had been part of the original contact team. Now she was the only one still trying to reach out. She sent messages. She waited. She begged. Finally, the Virex responded. Their reply was simple. "You do not follow the rules." That was all. No warning. No explanation. Then came the next event. A ship appeared over the Pacific Ocean. It was not Virex. It was something else. Dark, silent, moving without sound. It hovered for hours, then vanished. No one claimed it. No one admitted seeing it. But the world watched, and the fear grew. In Washington, Ethan was called into another meeting. This time the room was full of generals. "What do we do?" one asked. Ethan looked around. "We keep learning," he said. "We keep building, and we wait." For what? For the moment they stop watching us and start fighting us. Silence filled the room, because everyone knew it was coming. Something was stirring in the stars, and humanity was starting to wake up. It started without warning. One moment Earth was quiet. The next, the sky burned. The Virex came again, but this time, not as watchers. They arrived in silence. Hundreds of ships dropped from the stars like shadows. They moved fast. Too fast. No one saw them until they were already here. The first strike hit Earth's orbital stations. These were peaceful places. Research labs, communication hubs, and early defense satellites. None were built for war. In less than an hour, half of them were gone. Then came the second wave. Massive alien ships hovered above major cities. They didn't land. They didn't speak. They fired. Energy beams fell from the sky. Some hit military bases. Some struck power grids. Others landed in empty fields, leaving only craters miles wide. Panic spread across the world. People ran, governments scrambled, cities went dark, and then the war began. Maggie Doyle Maggie was on patrol when it happened. She was flying one of the new space fighters, small, fast, and still untested in real combat. She had trained for years, but nothing could prepare her for what she saw. From her cockpit, she watched as a Virex ship opened fire on North America. The beam came down like lightning. A city vanished in seconds. She clenched her fists. "This is Flight Leader Doyle," she said into the radio. "I'm going in." Her wingman followed. They dove toward the enemy, dodging fire and moving fast. The Virex ships were huge, like floating fortresses. But they weren't perfect. Their weapons needed time to recharge. Their movements were slow compared to the agile human fighters. Maggie used that. She led her team in a zigzag pattern, staying low and fast. They launched missiles at the ship's underbelly. Some missed. Some exploded harmlessly against shields. But one hit just right. A small explosion lit up the side of the alien vessel. Not enough to destroy it, but enough to make it move. For the first time, the Virex backed away. Maggie grinned. "They can bleed," she whispered. Then another ship appeared. Bigger, faster, and it opened fire. Maggie barely pulled up in time. Her fighter shook violently as energy blasts tore through the sky behind her. "Break formation," she shouted. "Get out!" Her team scattered. Some made it. Some didn't. As she flew away, Maggie looked back. Earth was burning, and she knew this was only the beginning. Ethan was in Washington when the attack started. He had been in a meeting with generals and scientists when the alarms went off. One moment they were talking strategy. The next, the lights flickered and the building shook. "Sir," someone shouted, "we're under attack." Ethan ran to the command center. What he saw there chilled him. Maps filled with red dots, cities going dark, satellites destroyed. "We've lost contact with Europe," a technician said. Ethan stared at the screen. The Virex were not trying to scare Earth anymore. They were trying to erase it. He turned to the general beside him. "We need to use the prototype," he said. The general hesitated. "It's not ready." "It has to be." Minutes later, Ethan was on a transport heading to a hidden base in Nevada. Inside a deep underground facility, Luke Morgan waited. He looked tired. His eyes were red. He hadn't slept in days. "You brought it?" Ethan asked. Luke nodded. "Yeah, but I don't know if it'll work." "What do you mean?" "I mean it's powerful, but unstable. One wrong move and we blow ourselves up." Ethan walked over to the machine. It was a railgun, bigger than any ever built. It used fusion energy to fire metal slugs at near light speed. It wasn't meant to shoot planes or ships. It was meant to shoot stars. "Set it up," Ethan said. "We have no choice." Luke sighed. "Let's hope we don't kill ourselves before the aliens do." Gerson Luke Morgan. The railgun was mounted on a satellite orbiting Earth. It took hours to set up. Teams worked fast, guided by Luke's voice over comms. "This wire goes here," he said. "No, not that one. The blue one." His hands shook. He wasn't a soldier. He was an engineer. But now he was helping build Earth's last hope. Finally, the system was ready. Luke sat in front of the control panel. His fingers hovered over the launch button. "Target locked," a voice said. "Enemy. Ship detected. Firing range clear." Ethan stood behind him. "Do it." Luke pressed the button. There was a flash, then silence, then a bright streak across the sky. The railgun fired. The slug hit the Virex ship square in the engine. The explosion lit up the night. The alien vessel broke apart in seconds. Luke stared at the screen. "We did it," he whispered. Ethan put a hand on his shoulder. "Now let's do it again." Lena Cruz Lena was in Geneva. She had stayed behind when the others fled. She believed diplomacy could still work. She tried to send a message to the Virex. "Stop this. We can talk." There was no reply. Instead, a Virex commander arrived in person. She met him in the ruins of the UN building. He wore black armor. His voice was cold. "You broke the rules," he said. "No," Lena replied. "You gave us orders." "You never gave us a choice," the Virex looked at her. "You will be erased." Lena stood tall. "Maybe, but we won't go quietly." The Virex left. And moments later, the building collapsed around her. Maggie. Again back in Colorado, Maggie regrouped with what was left of her squadron. They had lost half their pilots, but they had also scored the first real hit against the Virex. That meant something. Command sent new orders. "Defend the coast." Read the message. "They're coming." Maggie got into her fighter. She looked at the sky. It was full of smoke. But between the clouds, she saw the stars, and she remembered why she joined the Air Force. Not just to fly, to protect. She climbed into her seat. "Let's go," she said. Her team followed. They flew east toward the fire. Ethan and Luke. The railgun was working. They fired it 3 more times. Each shot took out a Virex ship. But the Virex adapted. Soon their ships started avoiding the firing path. They sent drones to hunt the satellite. Luke worked fast. He reprogrammed the gun to fire in unpredictable patterns. He added decoys. He even managed to hack into one of the alien drones. It was risky. It was dangerous. But it bought Earth time. Ethan knew time wasn't enough. They needed more weapons, more fighters, more people willing to fight. So he called in every favor he had. He reached out to old allies, to secret programs, to forgotten soldiers. "We're not done yet," he told them. Not by a long shot. The world reacts around the globe. People watched the battle unfold. Some hid. Some prayed. Others picked up weapons. In China, a group of engineers modified old missile systems to reach space. In Russia, a retired pilot returned to duty. In India, students hacked into defense networks to help track enemy ships. Across the world, humanity was waking up. They had been called weak. Now they were proving otherwise. Final scene: Maggie led a final charge. She and her team attacked a Virex dropship heading toward New York. They fought hard. They lost 2 more pilots, but they stopped the ship. It crashed into the ocean. Maggie looked at the burning skyline. She breathed heavily. "This is just the start," she said. And she was right. The war had begun. But so had the resistance. The war had been going on for weeks. Earth was still standing, but just barely. Cities were burning. Oceans boiled near alien strikes. Skies were filled with smoke and broken ships. But something else was happening too. Humanity was starting to fight back. Not just with weapons, with ideas, with courage, and with help from an unexpected place. Ethan Blake Ethan stood in a command center deep beneath Nevada. It used to be a missile silo. Now it was the heart of Earth's resistance. Maps covered the walls. Red dots showed enemy positions. Green dots marked human forces. Most of the red dots were still winning, but not all. A young officer handed Ethan a report. "Sir," she said, "we've got movement in the Pacific." He read the report quickly. A fleet of Virex dropships was heading toward Hawaii. They weren't coming to talk. They were coming to end things. Ethan looked at Luke Morgan, who was sitting at a nearby console. "We need more firepower," Ethan said. Luke sighed. "We're running low," he replied. "The railgun can only fire so many times before it overheats." Ethan nodded. Then he saw something on the map. A small fleet of old submarines was moving fast under the ocean. "They might not look like much," Ethan said. "But those old boats are our best chance." Luke raised an eyebrow. "You want to use World War II-era subs against alien ships?" Ethan smiled. "I want to use smart people against arrogant ones." Bruce Maggie Doyle Maggie was in Colorado. She had survived more battles than most. Her squadron was smaller now. Some pilots were gone, others were injured, but they were still flying. She sat with her team around a table in a ruined hangar. "This won't be easy," she said. "We're outgunned, outnumbered, and we don't have time." One pilot asked, Then why are we doing this? Maggie looked at him. Because if we don't, there won't be anything left to come home to. The room went quiet. Then one by one, they nodded. They would fly again, they would fight, even if it meant dying. Luke Morgan back in Nevada. Luke worked nonstop. He was tired. His hands shook. He hadn't slept in days. But he kept building. He modified old drones, added new targeting systems, used alien tech to make human weapons better. He wasn't alone. Other engineers joined him, scientists, hackers, even students. Together, they built what they called Project Ghost, small fast drones that could move through space undetected. They didn't carry big bombs. They carried smart bombs, ones that could find weaknesses in Virex shields. Luke tested them himself. He launched one drone into orbit. It found a Virex ship, stuck itself to the hull, then exploded. The whole ship vanished in a flash. Luke watched. The screen. We did it, he whispered. Now they just needed more. Lena Cruz-Lena was alive. She had survived the attack on Geneva, barely. Now she was hiding in Europe, moving from city to city, talking to leaders, sending messages. She believed peace was still possible, but not with the Virex. So she reached out to someone else, a species called the Karathi. They were not part of the Virex conquered. They had been watching the war from afar. Lena sent them a message. We do not want your pity. We want your help. Days passed, then came a reply. You have proven you can fight. That makes you worth saving. The Karathi agreed to meet, in secret. Lena traveled across the Atlantic, hidden aboard a military transport plane. She arrived in Brazil. There, she met 3 Karathi. They were tall, blue-skinned, wore armor made of light. One of them spoke. You are not like the others, he said. No, Lena replied. We learn fast. The Karathi looked at each other. Then one said, we will give you what we can, but you must earn it. They gave Lena data, plans for energy weapons, shielding tech, ways to block Virex signals. It was not enough to win, but it was enough to change the game. The submarines in the Pacific, the old submarines moved silently. They were called the Iron Fleet. Made up of retired vessels from the US, Russian, and Chinese navies. Most of them were slow. Their weapons were outdated, but their crews were not. Commander Ray Harris led the mission. He was old, grizzled, had fought in wars no one talked about anymore. Now, he had one job: stop the Virex before they reached land. His crew loaded new torpedoes, modified with alien energy cores. They fired. The torpedoes flew through water, then broke the surface. They turned into missiles. They shot into the sky. And they hit hard. Virex dropships exploded mid-air. The attack stopped. For now, Ray looked out over the sea. We just bought some time, he said. But time was all they needed. Maggie again. Maggie led another mission. This time she was flying a hybrid fighter, one built from both human and alien parts. It was faster, stronger, more agile. She led a group of pilots toward a Virex base in Antarctica. The Virex had landed there. They were building something. No one knew what. Maggie didn't wait to find out. She dove in low. Missiles flew. Lasers lit the sky. Her team attacked in waves. They hit the base hard. Smoke rose. Explosions lit the ice. Then, the base collapsed. Maggie pulled up. She looked back. Nothing was left. She radioed in. Target destroyed. Then she flew home. Tired, but alive. Ethan. Again, Ethan received the news. The Virex were changing tactics. They were pulling back. Not because they were scared, because they were confused. Humans were not supposed to be this strong. They were not supposed to adapt this fast. Ethan knew the war wasn't over, but something had shifted. The Virex were no longer certain of victory, and that meant Earth had a chance. He called a meeting. Scientists, pilots, generals, Diplomats. We keep pushing, he said. We build more weapons, we train more fighters, we form more alliances. He paused. And we never stop fighting. Final scene. In space, a new satellite was launched. It carried a message, not from Earth, from the Karathi. It was broadcast to every Virex ship. You thought humans were weak. They are not. They are warriors. They are survivors. They are not finished. Across the world, people heard the message. And for the first time since the war began, they felt hope. The war had gone on for months. Earth was broken, not destroyed, but close. Cities were in ruins. Millions had died. The sky was filled with smoke and fire. But still, people stood up. Still, they fought. And now, it came down to this, the final battle. Maggie sat in her fighter. She looked out at the stars. They were quiet tonight. Too quiet. Behind her, a fleet of human ships floated in space near Jupiter. They were not perfect. Some were patched together from old parts. Others were built from alien tech stolen during the war, but they were ready. Her radio crackled. "This is Commander Harris," came the voice. "We're in position." Maggie nodded. "Copy that." She turned to her wingman, Jake. "You scared?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Hell yeah." "You?" Maggie took a deep breath. "Every time." Then she pushed the throttle forward. Her ship shot into the void. The others followed. The Virex were waiting. Their fleet was massive. Ships shaped like blades, moving fast, shooting beams of light that could melt steel. Maggie led the charge. She dove between enemy ships, dodging fire. Her team launched missiles. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3. Virex ships exploded. But more came. They were losing, unless something changed. Ethan was on a command station orbiting Saturn. He watched the battle unfold on his screen. Red dots. For Virex ships, green dots for humans, more red than green. Luke Morgan sat beside him. "They're pushing too hard," Luke said. "We can't hold them off forever." Ethan looked at the data. "We don't need forever," he said. "Just long enough." Luke frowned. For what? To find the dreadnought. There was silence. Everyone knew about the Virex dreadnought, a massive ship, not just a weapon, a planet killer. If it fired, Earth would be gone. Ethan turned to a young officer. "Did we get the intel?" She nodded. "Yes, sir. We found it. It's hidden behind the moon." Ethan stood. "Then we hit it first." Luke got to work. He pulled up the schematics of the dreadnought. It was huge, heavily shielded, armed with weapons no one had seen before. But there was a weakness, a small opening near the core. One strike there and it would blow. Luke called Ethan. "I think I found a way," he said. "How?" "A drone, fast, smart. Hits the core and detonates." Ethan looked at him. "We don't have anything like that." Luke smiled. "We do now." He showed Ethan a new design. It was small, sleek, built with Karathi tech. "Project Ghost Mark III," Luke said. "Fastest thing we've made." Ethan nodded. "Can you get it to the core?" Luke looked at the numbers. "I can try. That's all we need." Lena Cruzlena was on a Karathi ship. She had helped form the alliance. Now she was part of it. The Karathi had joined the fight. They sent ships, weapons, fighters, and they brought something else. Hope. Lena stood with their leader, a tall, blue-skinned man named Tarek. "They will not stop," Tarek said. "You know that." Lena nodded. "I do." Tarek looked at her. "Then why fight?" Lena smiled. "Because if we don't, no one else will." Tarek stared at her. Then he nodded. "Then we fight." Maggie again. Maggie flew through the battlefield. Ships crashed around her. Explosions lit the dark. She saw a Virex fighter heading straight for her. She rolled left. Missile fired, hit. The enemy ship vanished. Maggie breathed hard. Then she heard the call. Doyle, come in. It was Commander Harris. The dreadnought is powering up, he said. It's going to fire. Maggie's heart pounded. No, it's not, she said. She turned her ship, straight toward the dreadnought. Ethan and Luke launched the drone. It shot through space like a bullet, no pilot, no crew, just code. It moved fast, dodging fire, slipping through defenses. It reached the dreadnought, slid inside, and then... Got it, Luke shouted. Ethan leaned forward. Now what? Luke pressed a button. Boom! The screen lit up. The dreadnought exploded. A shockwave spread across the battlefield. Virex ships tumbled. Some broke apart. Others tried to flee. Maggie saw it from her cockpit. She smiled. They did it. Then she looked ahead. More Virex ships. Still fighting. Still coming. She gripped the controls. Then so are we. Basir, final battle. The last hour was chaos. Human ships fought hard. Karathi fighters joined the attack. Submarines launched missiles from Earth's oceans. Fighters dove into enemy lines. People gave everything. Some lived, some didn't. Maggie stayed. In the fight, she led the final wave, shot down 2 enemy ships, saved 3 pilots, took a hit to her engine, still flew, still fought, still believed. Sacrifice. Then came the moment. A Virex carrier was moving toward Earth. It carried thousands of troops. If it landed, the war would start again. Maggie saw it. She checked her fuel. Low, her weapons, empty. But she had one choice. She radioed Ethan. I'm going in. Ethan's voice cracked. Maggie, don't. I have to. She dove. Straight at the carrier. The Virex tried to shoot her down. They missed. She hit the hull and detonated. A flash. A roar. The carrier split in 2. It fell into the ocean. Gone. Maggie was gone too, but not forgotten. Aftermath. The Virex surrendered. Not because they wanted to, because they had no choice. Their fleet was broken, their leaders dead. They fled, back to the stars, leaving Earth in peace. For now. A new beginning. Weeks passed. The world began to heal. New governments formed. New armies trained. New ships flew, and Maggie became a legend. Her name was carved into stone. Her face was painted on fighter jets. Her voice was played on radios. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. Ethan stood on a hill. He looked up at the stars. Luke walked beside him. They'll come back, Luke said. Ethan nodded. I know. Luke looked at him. Then what do we do? Ethan smiled. We get ready.